Hi, this is Joe again with another video, and this is going to be a totally different type of video than I've been doing, simply because of what happened in Chancellorsville, Virginia. So I figured I'm not going to fully comment on because instead of doing a full commentary on it, because I don't want to get blasted for my political views on it, but what I'm going to do is going to give you the main issue in the Chancellorsville, what happened in Chancellorsville, was people were protesting the fact that a statue of Robert E. Lee was taken down. Because Robert E. Lee was a racist and he had slaves, he was supporting slavery and all this stuff. And so the liberals in the United States were taking the statue down. And not only was taking the Robert E. Lee statue down, but we're taking down every single Confederate soldier's statue down across the entire United States. And of course, most of these statues are in the South. But of course, they fought in the Civil War, and after the Civil War, all these monuments were erected either by state buildings or in Richmond, Virginia, which was the capital of the Confederacy of the United States from 1861 to 1865, and so they have a they have a whole street full of these Confederate soldiers and generals, and not only that, but they recently put up a statue of Abraham Lincoln on the Memorial, I think it was called Memorial Avenue, and when people are not offended by the Lincoln statue there, but they are offended with the Confederate generals and the Confederate soldiers there because they're all racist, they're all slaves. Well, because of all that crap that was going on, I figured I'd do a history lesson for you all, and about the Civil War. Now, the majority of the people who fought for the Confederacy in the U.S. Civil War did not, and repeat, did not own slaves. And that's including General Robert E. Lee. He never owned slaves. He detested slavery. He was against it. He thought it was a moral sin. And it is a moral sin. The reason why General Lee fought for the Confederacy instead of the North, and he was offered a job to be the general of all the Northern forces in the Civil War. And the majority of the Southerners who fought for the Civil War fought this way. Felt this way. Because they did not want to raise the swords, or their swords, against their home state. Because there was more separated with states instead of cities. Like there's now, don't even think twice about it now. Or where you're from, or from New York City, or from Chicago, or from LA, or live in Dallas, or whatever. We live in cities instead of the individual states. Then it said, what state you live in? So, from Pennsylvania, or from Ohio, or from Virginia, or from this one. And so a lot of people felt that the South was being invaded by the Federal Army, or the Northern Army, and they wanted to defend their homes from an invader, which was the Federal troops. And that's what they felt. I'm defending my home from an invading army. Even though they were trying to create their own country with 11 states. That's where it came. That's why General Robert E. Lee fought for the South, because when Virginia succeeded, and he was from Virginia, Lee, he didn't want to draw his sword against his native state. That's the reason. Not because of to defend slavery. And also, most of the people who did fought for the South, like I said earlier, did not own slaves, but they want to have the right, possibly they have the right to have them. If they choose to have them. Well, most people who had slaves were these rich plantation owners. The average schnook, or the average person, did not have enough money to own slaves. And slaves means wealth. Okay, as crazy as it sounds. Honestly, I don't know what the hell the music's from. So if you hear the music, apologize for it. But most people, but only the rich a-holes, okay, who lived in the South owned slaves, but the average Nook did not own slaves. And the majority of the people, like I said earlier, the majority of the people who lived in the South and fought for the South in the Civil War did not own slaves. They didn't. Because the reason why they fought in the Civil War was actually fought was not to keep slavery or defend slavery to the bitter end. It was because the fact that they felt that they feel that the federal government of the United States should not be telling them what to do, how to do it, how to live their lives, and all this stuff. That's why the Civil War was fought. It was for states' rights, not for slavery. So they felt that the individual states should decide whether or not that the people have the right to own slaves or not. It's not because they felt that the individuals in the South, or the majority of people, should decide for themselves if they want to have slaves or not, and that's if they could afford it. Because owning slaves was very expensive. And that's why only the rich Nooks in the time owned slaves. But like I said earlier, the Robert E. Lee did not own slaves, and that's why the American Civil War was for states' rights, not for slaves. But halfway through the war, when it looks like that the Northern Army or the Federal Army of the United States was going to be losing the war, that's when Abraham Lincoln came in and decided to free the slaves. And because he did that, and by the way, folks, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Okay, he's the one who decided to free the slaves and made it an issue because they figured, hey, we need more troops, and figured, hey, we're going to have the slaves. We could have the slaves fight on our side instead of the South. Just as many slaves fought for the South as they did for the North. Another lesson that they leave out of the history books was that slaves, but almost as many, well, because there were more slaves fought for the North than did for the South. But there was maybe 20%, maybe 10 to 20% of the slaves approximately fought for the South on the premise that if the South won the war, which of course we all know they didn't, but if the South ends up winning the war, they will be granted their freedom. So that's why those slaves who fought for the South did. Now here's another lesson that nobody talks about in the history books. Well, first of all, history is not even taught anymore in the schools anymore, and because of history is not being taught in the schools, that's why we have the problems like we had in Chancellorsville, and all these Confederate statues are being taken down all over the United States. Is the fact that after the war, just before when the war was about to end, the Civil War was about to end, Abraham Lincoln actually had a meeting with Frederick Douglass, who was the biggest black leader at the time. He was really the only black leader at the time. He was like the Martin Luther King of that era, in the Civil War era. And Lincoln told him, so look, the white population, and it was a white majority in the United States back then. He said, look, the white population in this country was not going to accept the blacks. It's not going to affect they're not going to accept the blacks as their equal. As a matter of fact, before I continue, I have to go back a little bit. When Lincoln announced the Emancipation Proclamation, a lot of the people in the North did not want to support, left the army. As soon as they found out that Lincoln switched the war to preserve the Union of the United States to freeing the blacks. I mean, I'm not saying that slavery was not an issue in the Civil War, okay? It's just that it wasn't the major issue. The major issue was preserving the Union, and slavery was like the second issue. Okay? Issue number one was preserving the Union, and the slavery and freeing the slaves was like an afterthought. So when Frederick Douglass agreed with Lincoln that the white population in the United States was not going to accept them, and Lincoln offered to immigrate, the blacks, the now free blacks, to maybe Haiti, Jamaica, or maybe even send some of them back to Africa. I am not kidding. This is actually true. Because to protect them, because even Frederick Douglass had to admit that they were not going to be accepted as equals in the United States, because even in the U.S. Constitution, which they hasn't even changed, and I think it has, even though they have the amendment banning slavery in the Constitution, it's still in the U.S. Constitution that a black person was only 3/4 of a person. Okay, you can look up in the U.S. Constitution, but Frederick Douglass says no. We're Americans. We've been Americans for like 200 years. We've been here since almost since the country was even founded. We weren't even a country at that time, and we were here. Blacks were here already as slaves. At that time, the country was starting to be formed, and when there were colonies of England, we were here. So we're staying. So Frederick Douglass says we're staying. It's going to be hard. It's going to be harsher for us. It's going to be harsher for the blacks, but we're Americans. And Lincoln says, okay, but if they want to go back, if they want to leave because of the racial unrest that we're going to have in this country, we're going to have something that could leave if they want to leave. They didn't originally agree to that. If they want to leave, they could leave, type thing. So Lincoln says, okay, if they want to leave, they could leave. They could leave. They're trying to arrange something, and Douglass said, no way, fat chance. So he put the next on that. But that's also a fact that's in the history books. And also, all this stuff is not, racist. It's like erasing, the liberals in this country are erasing the history of the United States. And it's flat out discussing what the hell is going on. It is. It is. Because I haven't studied the Civil War. I went to Gettysburg. I went to Richmond. And it's, history is something that we should all learn. We should all learn all sides of it, not just the liberal point of view or the liberal point of view. We should just learn all the points of why we even had the Civil War. Because people fought the Civil War because for slavery. No, it was because of states' rights, and most people, even in the Northern Army and as well as the Southern Army, wanted to fight for states' rights more than anything, because they felt that they didn't want, or the Southerners didn't want the federal government telling them what to do, how to run their lives, how to live their lives, and stuff like that. And now the liberals, and so they had this protest to protest the fact of the Robert E. Lee statue being taken down, and they had a permit to do that. But unfortunately, the white supremacy groups like the Klan and the skinheads and stuff, they joined in. They had no right to join in, right? Because they didn't have the permit to join in. That's the the group who was protesting the taking down of the Confederate statues, particularly the Robert E. Lee statue in Chancellorsville. They said, hey, they didn't have. They hopped on it. They joined the bandwagon, so to speak. That's what happened. And as soon as they heard these white supremacy groups joining in, these anti-white groups like Black Lives Matter, and joined in. And so a person who was for white supremacy got in his car and trying to mow down as many people as they can, but only kill one person out of it. And the mother of the one who was killed, I'm so proud of my daughter. A liberal idiot, I have to say, is proud of a daughter being killed. She's glad that her daughter is dead. What a bitch! I have to say that. All due respect to the mother of the one who was killed, you're a stupid idiot. I have to say it. You proudly got a dead daughter? You proud of that? Who the hell is proud of having a dead daughter in the middle of a stupid protest? You proud of that, you stupid bitch? You proud of that? You proud that your daughter was dead? What an idiot. What a fucking idiot you are. I have to say it. You are an idiot. Okay? So there should be a law. If Trump had any brains, which we all know he doesn't, but if he had any brains, he should put in a law or ask Congress to write a federal law forbidding the taking down of the Confederate soldiers, especially if they have to be on a battlefield. Banning the taking down these statues they've been up for over 100 years. It's not a thing that's been up for like say 20 minutes. It's been up there for about 100 years, because it's been over 150 years since the Civil War ended, and almost right away, like in the early part of the 20th century, I should say. I mean, back in the 20s and 30s, even the 40s, these statues are now being taken down, and it's a fucking disgrace. I mean, I really have to say it's a disgrace. They're erasing history, and they're ruining the history of the United States. The history of the United States is not pleasant, but we all should learn every little stinking bit of history. Both sides of the argument. Not just the liberal point of view, but all sides of the argument. Or both sides of the argument. And everybody, and I don't agree with Trump 100%, but he's agreed that both sides, both the whites and the blacks, are equally responsible for what happened. And he got blasted for it. Because you can't criticize the Black Lives Matter and all that stuff. You can't criticize the blacks at all. Even if it's a legit criticism like the one Trump had on Saturday when the riots were going on. But the truth of the matter is, both sides were equally guilty in this thing. Both sides, and both sides should be in jail. They both be in jail for what they did on this past Saturday. But the problem is, of course, nobody knows history anymore. Thankfully, I do. I know what the significance of the Confederate flag is, and how many people actually owned slaves, especially the Confederate generals, like Robert E. Lee never owned a slave. He fought for the South because he did not want to draw his sword against his native state or against his home, against his family, and against his friends. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, Abraham Lincoln had 5 brothers-in-law, 5 brothers-in-law who fought for the South. There's another fact I don't tell you about in the history books. I pretty much bring out everything in this video, but those are the facts, folks. Most people who fought for the South in the Civil War did not even own one single slave. And it is including some of the generals who fought for the war. Oh yeah, believe it or not, folks, George Washington, the father of our country, he had slaves. And George Washington, who wrote the Constitution of the United States, not only did he own slaves, but he actually had sex with at least one of them. And as a matter of fact, if you go to Monticello, which is Thomas Jefferson's home in Virginia, he is buried next to the slave that he had sex with the most. I am not kidding. Right? So the 2 leaders of our country had slaves, and at least Thomas Jefferson anyway was fucking his slaves, okay? Excuse my language, but he was fucking his slaves. Alright? How come Thomas Jefferson's statues haven't been taken down? Huh? How come the Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C. has not been taken down, not been destroyed? Or the Washington Monument not been destroyed? Because he had slaves too. Right? And it goes to show you how fucking phony the liberals in the United States are. And that's why every country in the world is laughing at us, because of these morons. Right? So this is my review of, it's not my review, it's my commentary on the Civil War, on the U.S. Civil War and all the stuff that's been going on with the statues. Please click on the video, please rate it, feel free to comment on it, please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video onto your Facebook pages. You can check out all my videos not only on my YouTube channel, but WDC.com, that's all WDY.com. You can check out please check out all of his videos on his website as well. Thank you for watching, and catch you next time. And the South will rise again.